Okay, it's 10 o'clock. Let's go ahead and we're doing a good job of staying on schedule. I'd like to continue to do so. This is the 10 o'clock session, acquisition and condemnation package checklist. Our presenters for this session are Shannon. Shannon is a graduate of Oregon State University and began her career with KYTC in District 9 as a right-of-way agent 1 in December 2001. During her time with the cabinet, she was promoted to a right-of-way agent 2 and the right-of-way unit leader, where her primary focus was acquisition, property management, and surplus property. She was right-of-way agent supervisor in District 9 for 3 years and is currently the acquisition branch manager. Beaven is a program specialist 2 in central office for acquisition section. Michael is in 2000 University of Kentucky. He previously worked in District 7 right-of-way section in Lexington, where before beginning work in central office in 2015. Samantha Williams, she's a program specialist 1 in central office for the acquisition section. Samantha began her highway career with KYTC. In April of 2010, she moved to the division of right-of-way in August 2012 as a right-of-way agent 1 and progressed through the series to unit leader. In October of 2021, Samantha accepted a program specialist position with acquisition branch in Frankfurt and continues to work primarily from the District 3 office. The primary duties consist of reviewing acquisition payment and condemnation packets, as well as assisting with other aspects of the branch. She is a 2006 graduate of WKU, Go Tops. She shares a love of golf and cheering for Kentucky Wildcats with her husband Andrew. Charles Hale. Charles started with the KYTC in 1989 in the right-of-way section as a right-of-way agent 1. He was promoted through the right-of-way series and in 2004 became the right-of-way supervisor in District 8 Somerset. In 2019, Charles became an assistant director for the division of right-of-way utilities. Charles grew up in Russell Springs and still resides there today. Charles received his BA in Business Administration from Lindsay Wilson College in 1988. Charles and his wife Amber have 3 children. Last but not least, Marion Sizemore. Marion began her career with KYTC in the division of right-of-way utilities in February of 2001. During her time with the cabinet, she was promoted to a grant and contract specialist, program coordinator, and right-of-way specialist 1, and then program specialist 2, where her focus has been acquisitions, project funding, and project authorizations. Marion has spent her entire state career in the division of right-of-way. And it just dawned on me, I haven't introduced myself. I am Kelly Devine. I'm the assistant right-of-way director for the division of right-of-way utility and rails. I just sort of took it for granted that most everyone knew me, but I thought I'd just go ahead and make a decision. I was told not to do the introduction, but I thought all of our speakers have been gracious enough to volunteer to do this, so I want to give them proper introductions. So I'm just sort of going rogue on this and give everyone a proper introduction. So with that being said, I will turn the floor over to Samantha.
Good morning, everybody. I was going to start by asking who all have gotten a packet returned to them from central office. But with the amount of people that's come up to me since I've been here, I think I know. Hopefully, after learning our process and what and how we review packets, when you all are putting your packets together, some of this will stick out in your mind. And so you know kind of the certain areas that we look for when we go through a packet from start to finish. I know for you on your all end in crowds, you all look for the green check marks that, hey, everything's ready, I can go ahead and submit it. But for us, we physically look through each packet from start to finish and compare everything in the packet to make sure everything is in order for us. You'll hear this repeated a lot throughout our discussion of packet review, but this is a major factor when looking over a packet. Consistency, when reviewing both payment packets and condemnation packets, we make sure that the acquisition areas amounts match the compensation amounts match, project information, access control, dates, etc. Consistency within packets is key when we review packets. Correct forms. Make sure all forms and or letters used are up to date and include appropriate letterhead. This just allows for a more streamlined review if everyone is submitting packets with the same forms with the correct logo letterhead up top, not the horse head that everybody's been talking about. Also, when submitting W-9s, make sure those are filled out completely and legible, especially the tax line for LLCs. This also goes for memorandum of understanding. Some social security numbers have been hard to decipher for payments. This just makes our check processing ladies really happy if they can read numbers, and it's easier for you all too to not have to go back and have to check things over again. Some helpful tips for reviewing packets. Have someone else review the packet. With the flexibility of crowds, we now have the ability to share packets with ease. This allows for multiple sets of eyes to view packets before submittal. In our office, we have dual screens. So if you have dual screens, utilize those, opening up duplicate tabs. So it allows for an easier manipulation between different parts of the packet. If you don't have dual screens, when I'm home doing the telecommute days, I'm just reviewing these on a laptop screen. I take notes for project and parcel information, so I don't have to continually move back and forth, lose my spot during construction or during the review of the payment packets.
One thing I did when I was supervisor, before the packets come to me, the unit leader always reviewed those packets as well. So that's very helpful. You've got more than one set of eyes on it. So do better than them.
Very true. And the last thing, do the record of contacts make sense? Record of contacts tell the story of the acquisition for each parcel. The potential for someone to read these contacts down the road is very high. As we all know, the turnover rate in districts have been high the last few years. The delays in construction of projects have been high. In District 3, we have two examples that I can pull from. We've had 2 projects let within the last 6 months of the year that took between like 5 to 7 years between acquisition and construction phase to start. We've lost a supervisor to the assistant director position. We had a supervisor retire. We've lost 2 agents who worked on both of those projects. And Mike has had the joyous fun of going back and reading through record of contacts to see what's been discussed. So record of contacts are very important in a packet. The checklist for payment packet review, Michael and I kind of do this very similar. We actually don't start, we don't start at the top. We don't start with a payment summary. We actually start with the deed and grant and title report. We just make sure that the project information and source information match, because the deed is it probably is the most important thing that we do, because it gets recorded. So there can't be mistakes on that. Once we go through that portion of it, we then start at the top. We go through the payment summary again with consistency and matching amounts. We keep that theme running. We bring up the payment summary. We still have the deed or the grant, and we make sure names match, compensation amounts match. Encumbrances, if there's any encumbrances on the title report, we make sure that matches on the payment summary. Once we go through the payment summary, we just continue down the list and do memorandum of understanding. Again, the area amounts, access control match with the deed of grant. Business attachments if needed. We make sure that the SOS is active and in good standing. There's a business resolution or meeting minutes that have been signed and included in the packet as well. If there's an administrative settlement needed, just make sure we read those, make sure there's plenty of detail and justification included. The justification needs to match what's wrote in the record of contacts as well. We also look for appropriate signatures. Within our right-of-way manual, there's a minor deviation section listed if you ever have any doubt or questions about who should sign for administrative settlement. The next thing, record of contacts, probably my most favorite thing about a payment packet. It's probably the least favorite thing about a payment packet for a lot of people. But the 20 questions need to be completed correctly with detail. Again, this goes back to my District 3 example with Mike having to read back through the record of contacts. If you just write that the acquisition is 1,000 square feet, it gives nobody anything to go. You don't have anything to go with. You just know that the acquisition is 1,000 square feet. So plenty of detail when dealing with the project and parcel information and questions. Again, we check for consistency with area and compensation amount, properly worded, and no threats of coercion, which is also listed in the right-of-way manual.
Some of the most common errors we find in the deed are in the source paragraph. The dates are generally wrong. So you need to make sure you're looking at your title report and at your source deed itself, because sometimes those might be different. So you want to make sure that you've got that correct information in your source paragraph on the deed of conveyance. Also on your business attachment, the resolution or the meeting minutes need to be signed prior to the person signing the deed of conveyance. Because those documents authorize that person to sign that deed. So it's very important that those are signed prior to. Also on your administrative settlement, a lot of times when I'm reviewing those settlements, I find out more information by reading the administrative settlement than I do the record contacts. So you need to make sure that those match. It's in the record contacts and it needs to be in your documentation negotiations there.
Yeah, just to repeat what Shannon said, the justification for counteroffers clearly needs to be stated and match the administrative settlement. A closing contact, review a lot of packets sometimes that just, the property owners agree to sign, but there's no closing contact stating that you have met with the property owner to execute the documents or you receive the documents, execute documents in the mail. It just kind of wraps things up to know, hey, that this is finished. There's nothing else going on with this packet or this parcel. Once you get to like the attachment section, the NOFA letter and the offer to purchase letter, we just ensure that if they were discussed in the record of contacts, that those attachments are there. The NOFA letter and the offer to purchase letter, just make sure that the information has been generated correctly in crowds. We do have sometimes where the NOFA letter information is not generated, and that's an easy fix, something that supervisor can take care of, but packets have come through and the information at the bottom has not shown up. On the parcel summary, again, just correctly completed with encumbrances from title report. If it's listed on the title report, you talked about it in the record of contact, it needs to show up on the parcel summary. You can just, even if it's something that's been released or it no longer is not valid to that property owner, just write a note or in the remarks section. The MAR range of value color photos, again, we just make sure that everything's been signed by the appropriate personnel, that they are actually included in the packet. Sometimes you'll have the excess, and so additional information for excess is needed, including the notice of excess purchase, a colors plan sheet, and property description, which is now included in crowd. Just make sure if you do have excess on a packet, you check the box up top so that populates into the actual packet itself. The checklist for condemnation packet, very much like the payment packet review, just with more emphasis on owner of record, the record of contacts, properly addressed letters, etc. Again, consistency within the packet, the names match all documents. It has to be the exact same name that's on the deed, the source deed.
We really can't stress that enough. The owner of record has to be on the plan sheet. Everything needs to be consistent with your 10-day letter, and your final notice of condemnation letter from the owner of record needs, their name needs to be on all of that stuff. We need to make sure that we are, condemning the correct person.
Again, area and compensation amounts match, watch with rounding. Everything needs to match. If it's rounded in one spot, it needs to be rounded in every other spot too. The final title report needs to be completed. A signed title update is necessary prior to submittal of condemnation packets. It's something that is required in our checklist. Condemnation letters need to be the current version. These have been pre-approved by central office and cannot be modified. They have been sent out via email, and if you don't have a copy of the newest version, just let one of us know and we can send you another email. Like Shannon said, some of the common mistakes that we see, source paragraph dates and deed book page numbers not matching, including a business resolution or meeting minutes paragraph in the deed and grant. Control access verbiage, it not being accurate throughout the packet. It may say something on the deed, but the MOU and the record of contact say something different. Information included on the title report, again, should be included on the parcel summary. Record of contacts needing more detail, the justification for counter offers. And we see a lot of people, and I've done it too, they copy and paste the 20 questions when you're working on a project, and that's the only focus that you had. Copy and paste is fine. Project information stays the same, but the parcel information does differ. So just make sure when you do that, you go through those parcel specific questions and update those answers. Question 2 in the 20 questions, the marital, well, we talk about marital status, but if a source deed says that they are single and it's been a few years, just check and make sure, because if they're not single and they're married, their spouse's information has to go on all this stuff. So state employee and elected official status verification, very necessary. If they are state employee, a lot of more paperwork has to happen. Consistency again with areas and amounts and property owner names. Orientation of scanned documents. If you're scanning an attachment, if you're using a not crowd version of an MOU, or I guess a crowd version of an MOU that's been printed out, just make sure those are scanning upright. I mean, we see a lot of packets. So if we have to orient every MOU to the correct position, so a lot of extra time that we have to go through. And the payment summary amounts in the wrong spot. We know, or I know that Marion knows way more about this than I do. She is my go-to when I have a question. But ask for clarification if you don't know what box to fill in on the payment summary. Miscellaneous packets, we see a lot of stuff. Sometimes the reporting fee needs to be on the reporting fee. Sometimes it's a reimbursement that needs to go into another. Sometimes things are miscellaneous taxable. Again, if I have a question or if I'm ever in doubt, I send Marion a text or a phone call or an email. So if you all have a question, I would email her as well. But really, I mean, just going through a packet, we try not to spend too much time on them, but just understanding all the things that I guess that we look for is key for you all too. That knowing our thought process, where we come from, what specific areas that we look at in a payment packet. So you all know that, hey, when I put this payment pack together, let me look and let me check my areas real quick. Make sure you also use the most up-to-date plans and legal descriptions. We've seen that come through a couple times where the legal description on the deed doesn't match everything else. And after digging into it and through ProjectWise, the deed descriptions were old deed descriptions, not the newest version. And the property owner had signed with the old deed description. So in that case, you have to go get a new deed signed. And some property owners maybe they're not the nicest ones that you have to deal with, that you may have to go back and get signatures from, and they may give you a little bit of flack. So, we try to give you all an opportunity to fix things and and look at things in a different direction before you actually go out and make offers or get people signed. So, it's just some of these things that can be done even before you submit a packet.
One thing Marion just reminded me about, the state employee, if they are retired prior to making the offer, then we don't have to send that to the governor's office.
But any questions? We do have some redacted copies of, heavily redacted copies of a payment packet and a condemnation packet, if people have specific questions concerning payment packets. Kelly, anything to add?
Don't be bashful. I've heard, lots of comments lately about, condemnation and acquisition payment packets. So let us have it.
Let Kelly have it.
Yeah. I do want to make a few comments. I don't know if that's the end of it.
Yeah,
I want to
we're
make some comments that I was jotting down. We mentioned this at the last two supervisor meetings. We can't keep saying this enough, that, the right of way supervisors, that this is not a pass-through. Please, carefully review these packets. We don't want the first quality control measures to be when Samantha, Michael, or Marion, and Shannon are looking at these things. And I'm going to use myself as an example. We okayed a deed template to be used on a project, and I thought I carefully examined it, and lo and behold, it did not have the project number on this deed. And Samantha caught it and brought it to the attention. And I didn't take it personal. I want to thank Samantha for catching this. This is not intended to be an attack or whatever. I mean, everyone makes mistakes. If you didn't make mistakes, we couldn't afford you. So, don't take it personal. It's important for us to get everything as right as possible. And that's what these reviews are. It's not only our eyes that are looking at these things, it's opposing attorneys, it's mediators, it's auditors, it's state highway engineer's office. So you never know who's going to be looking at these documents. And along those lines too, be very careful in your emails, what you are discussing, because those are subject to open records. So be careful, very careful with what you put in your emails and include in the record of contacts. All of this is done in order to try to minimize, any possible right to take issues that we face down the road in litigation. So.
Yeah, just Keith.
I was instructed by an attorney one time to make a phone call instead of an email, because phone calls are recorded and they can't do over record. So if you've got a question that it tells something that's a little on the fringes, it's better to ask the question in person than via email, because you're getting the answer the same way, but you're not putting it out there for the public.
Keith, he brings up a good point. If you ever have a question about something before you submit the packet, don't hesitate to call or email one of us, and we can discuss anything before you all submit packets. If you have questions, you may not know what to do in a certain situation. I think I learn something new every day by reviewing packets. So you all are teaching me a thing or two. I worked in District 3. We didn't have a lot of mineral rights stuff come into play. Never seen anything with mineral rights that I got to central office. So there's things that I still don't know.
Contrary to popular belief, Samantha does not enjoy returning payment packets. I mean, she's getting that reputation, and in her defense, I mean, she hates to return them. She'll come to me and ask, and I think she does the same to Shannon. You know, she's very conscientious before she does, return anything, and, I hope that you find that, it's constructive criticism, and it's nothing personal. It's, you know, I hate to talk about someone that's passed, but, we have had personnel in central office that would just return things and wouldn't tell us what was wrong with it, and it was up to us to figure it out. And, anyway, that's one thing that I think is good about our crowd system, is that when something is returned, it's documented as to what needs, to be fixed, and then hopefully you all reciprocating and get those changes made as quick as possible back to us so that we can process it and not delay the project.
Yeah, and the main thing to remember is when we're checking packets is, you know, we're just making sure you guys are following policy. You know, because central office, we are, subject to internal audits as well. And they don't give us a heads up. They just come in, name a project and a parcel, and they audit the packet. So that's why, you know, we have to make sure that all the guidelines are followed. Or you need to have a question?
This may be a question better to the next panel, but I'll open it up to the experience of those in the room. How often have you seen records of contacts, texts, communications between the agent and the property owner, part of discovery in a lawsuit, or valuation considerations? The only question that I would, or the doubt I would have is those materials are part of an active project until the project is complete and on the street. That may or may not be related to someone I know or a current situation I'm personally involved in. Thank you.
In every condemnation case.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? We're good. Kelly, I'm good if you all are good. Sorry.
How often, do you see now with technology being like this, you're having to do a lot of things, via Teams, Skype, text messages? In your contacts, when those are loaded, because that is technically a written form, what is kind of one of your requirements, like, if a property owner chooses, like, hey, just text me the time, are you asking them to print those off as additional materials like the back of that, or just load that into a regular contact that's like a summary of what's stated?
If it's a text message, just summarize, the conversation, just like you would a phone call or an in-person meeting. Just be sure to document that it wasn't a text message.
Do we always need to put an extra contact to explain an extra offer to purchase letter, even if it's before the offer is given?
So if there's like a mistake or they mistakenly printed out an offer to purchase letter, or they revised them more before an initial offer. It's always a good thing to take a note to file, because, you know, we see, I mean, it shows up in the packet. So we see all the offer to purchase letters that have been generated. We see all of the MARs that have been generated. So we go through and we see multiple documents of these, multiple copies of these with different dates and stuff like that. We kind of question where they come from. So if there's a note in the file saying, hey, prematurely printed out the offer purchase letter, and then had to revise the MAR before the offer, it just lets us know. So we're not questioning where these other documents come from. Do you all give an offer beforehand and you didn't write the offer down? That's something too in record of contact. If you do make a revised offer, there needs to be a contact about it. Has to.
not recorded, it doesn't happen.
That revised offer contract also needs to include a breakdown of the offer.
Anything else? Any other questions? I would like to take this opportunity. I know, I appreciate everything that Samantha and her staff do. I mean, they've got a thankless job and, I can't imagine sitting there looking at packet after packet after packet. I mean, it can be quite cumbersome and overwhelming at times because, I mean, they see everything that comes in. And so, I do think they do an outstanding job in trying to make sure that everything is accurate and complies to our policies and procedures. And so, anyway, I just, wanted to throw that out there.
Another thing that I want to bring up is, no matter if Samantha or Michael receive the packet or Marion, they're all checking for the same thing. Whoever sends it back, it's luck of the draw there. But I also just want to say thank you to you guys, for everything you all do. Without your work, we couldn't, get our projects delayed, so, you all are greatly appreciated.
I'll echo that same sentiment as well. This is not in any means to be a gripe session. I mean, I do feel like we do excellent work. I mean, that's backed up by our success rate, which I think, Dean, if I'm not mistaken, it's still around 88%.
Correct. We moved up about 3% the last 5 years.
Yeah, so I'm very proud of the work that our KYTC.
We still make it so. Just saying.
But we're very appreciative of all the work our consultant partners do as well. I think you all do an outstanding work, and we're very appreciative of that. So, with that being said, if there's no more questions. Jim.
Anybody did do the sign-in sheet, I don't know, it ended up back with me, so.
Just a reminder, same employees do not need to sign that sheet.
Yeah, that's for consultants and just for their continuing education. So.
I was wondering.
Don't forget to fill out your evaluations on the app. And with that, I guess we'll go ahead and dismiss.
Excellent job.
Zach, you had those on the front, and also the phone.